No,
Okay.
might have done that too soon.
Call to order the meeting, the CIC June 3rd meeting. Meeting now come to order. Roll call?
Okay. Good evening. Kanima, we have Linda is here. Dennis is here. Dan from Coffeeville? Here. Yes, great. We don't have Lisa?
She should be online.
Okay, all right.
Not so far. I'll let you
Doesn't
know.
show up, but
Yeah.
Elyville is Carla Laws.
She's absent, and so is Dee Dee, unfortunately.
Okay, Gaffney Lane, we have Shelley. Or we did have Shelley.
Yeah, but you also
Break.
have.
We have
And we have Betty.
Betty, is that your name?
Check. Hazel Grove, no rep. Hillendale, we have Sarah.
Present.
And we have Josh to my right.
I'm here.
McLaughlin, Denise.
Here.
Tim.
Here.
And we have Tim. Park Place, Steve.
Here.
And Bob.
Here.
Sal. Yes. No rep for Rivercrest. Mark from South End is joining us. Mark. No audio.
But he is
But
joining
we
us.
see him.
He said words.
Okay,
here.
there he is. Tower Vista, no rep. And Two Rivers, no rep. And
Lisa.
And Lisa.
Yeah.
Hello, Lisa. Okay, back to you, Linda.
Okay, so our first presentation is it Karina, Archibald with the TriMet outreach
Mr.
programs. So if you give us a presentation and we'll hold our questions until you finish, if that's okay. All right, please join us.
Yeah, so that everyone online and your microphone is on, so you should be all good to go.
Okay, as you mentioned, my name is Karina Archibald. I come from TriMet, and I am the
Could
community.
you hold the mic a little closer?
Yes, I am the community engagement coordinator. I have been assigned to, for TriMet District 7, which will be Clackamas, which I was very excited because I believe in Clackamas all my life, and I couldn't have been more happier to be part of it. So basically, I am here just to introduce myself. If there are questions that you may have about TriMet, if anything that you may want to take it to TriMet, like any concerns, or if at some point in any of your meetings you need a specialist from TriMet, like a city planner or one of the engineers, I'm more than happy to be the connection. Like, you can just email me and I can just make that happen. And I also brought today here some of the RIDE guides, which has every possible explanation of every possible question that you may have, or the people that go to your meetings. And this RIDE guide comes in 13 different languages. So if there is any request, I'm more than happy to go to one of your meetings and take the languages that might be needed. And that is all. I don't know if there is any questions. Yes.
So I worked in Wilsonville for about 25 years and tried several times to find logical TriMet access from here to Wilsonville. There used to be a way to do it, to go from here to Canby and then from Canby to Wilsonville with their local bus services. But to ride TriMet, I would have had to go downtown to Portland and ride back to Wilsonville. It would have taken me 2 hours each way.
That is right.
Has that improved?
It's coming. It is coming. There is a lot of changes in this area. And I mean, in the whole Clackamas area. And there will be a connection directly from Tualatin Park and Ride coming all this way. So that will help improve time. And that change it's happening in phases. So it will start from this summer and going progressively to until next summer. And there will definitely be a better way to connect here, because that is one of the things that was consider into TriMet that connection between the neighborhoods like Lake Oswego, West Lane, and all the Clackamas area towards the area to Tualatin.
Do you know if there have been any conversations about providing service to the South End Road area?
I am not aware, but I can certainly, if you have like more specific area, like, or a specific, like I would say like specific area, I'm more than happy to talk to the city planners and see like what are the plans, and if there is nothing yet, what are the future plans coming to?
To the best of my knowledge, there are no bus lines on South End Road. Am I?
I think there are some bus rides. We work at a food bank, and some people come by bus or wait for the bus to pick them up off of South End Road. That would be the front of where the Methodist Church, where the old movie theater used to be.
Bus. That's the city.
City bus, city.
I was thinking more further out on
Further, okay.
South End, because that's quite a ways out there, so.
Yeah, I will be more than happy to connect if there is like that is the thing also, like if there are nothing more than you to know what are the needs of the community, right? If you bring up things like, okay, we need buses here and buses are really not coming, that is the information that I will be more than happy to take it there, put it into the process so that can be considered and they can start thinking and can get into the plans for TriMet to expand. As it is right now, there's been a lot of considerations towards this area. So, and a lot will continue happening as it's needed. But sometimes we do the open houses, and not everybody who will want to participate, I want them to participate come, and then the voice is not heard as I would like to. But that's why I'm connecting with you. Like, okay, I want to be your voice in TriMet.
I know several years ago they had eliminated the service on Holcomb Boulevard. And then as a result of either it was a CIC meeting or a TAC meeting, I raised objections to that. And they realized there were a lot of people up there on low incomes and they needed the bus service, and they restored it. So that was very much appreciated.
Absolutely. TriMet is always listening. But the point is when people are not talking, then there's nothing to listen. So that's why we want to be involved with the neighborhood associations, CPOs, and everybody who may want to bring a concern so we can actually see what the needs are.
Thank you.
Tim?
Karina, I had we had a meeting, at our last meeting, we heard that the TriMet center downtown, the transit center, is being expanded for more routes, is what we were told. Do you have any idea what kind of route changes we'll see, or how many, and when will this happen?
Yeah, I can send you a detailed information if we exchange emails, and for sure I will, and anything that will need to be explained in further detail, I can also put you in contact with
I'd
one
love
of the
that. Thank you.
planners about timings and everything.
Okay, great, thank you.
I don't see any other questions or any questions online. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next presenter is the Parks Master Plan. We must have had a change in presenter?
I just became more educated on who presents.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for having me. My name's Kendall Reed. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for Oregon City. Tonight, I'm here to introduce Neelay Bhatt. He's our consultant for Next Praxis Partners. We've been working on our Parks Master Plan for over 2 years now, engaging with the community, and we have some fantastic information that we're looking forward to moving forward for approval with the City Commission and implementation of the plan, and then continuing to move forward to have that plan adapted in our comprehensive plan, so we can start the process of getting the funding that we need and starting to implement some of the information that we have in the plan. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Neelay.
Thank you, Kendall. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me, see me okay?
Yes.
All right. So Kendall said keep this short, so I promise I'll be done in about a couple of hours. Just kidding. All right, can you all see my screen?
No.
Not yet. It's just black.
Let's see. It says my screen share is loading, so I'm gonna give my computer a moment to think.
As long as it's not technical difficulties over here.
No, I can hear you all okay. Everything else seems frozen here. Can you see me okay?
I can see you.
We see you clearly.
Yeah, but not your
Huh.
screen.
Yeah, I don't see anything right now as well. Everything on your end is frozen for me. Let me.
These things never have really a rhyme or a reason.
Yeah,
There we go. Yay.
Takes a while to load.
that's perfect. Okay, so as Kendall said, really just quickly recapping the plan process and sharing with you some of the recommendations that have come from the process, from the staff, that ultimately will go to the commission for adoption as well. Like any typical master plan goes, we're looking at three major steps. Where are we today? Where do we want to go? How do we get there? And obviously, a lot of this was framed by your community engagement. Again, as a lot of you are there as well to sort of help represent that too. We had, again, a number of participants, a lot of different input as well throughout the process, assessed the programs for a variety of core program areas that we did as well, and also captured all the inventory that was offered both through the city, but also other service providers. And this is a function of both your current and future population. So what you see in red is based on the recommended level of service, and that is specific to Oregon City. There isn't a national standard. There isn't even a state-specific standard. So this is very much specific to Oregon City. And you can see some of the areas with respect to neighborhood parkland, trails. You may or may not heard of this sport. It's called pickleball. It's seemingly very fast growing. But also a fenced dog park and recreation space and aquatics. Now, keep in mind, this is simply talking quantity, not capacity itself. So with respect to, let's say, a pool, it may say more or less we're good. But in terms of the capacity and the condition, we certainly do need more as well. And that's where we took all of this and then mapped it into individual equity maps to show you gaps and overlaps by different amenity types. So this is specific to playgrounds. If you look on the top left, you'll see the standard of one site for 2,500 people. That basically means if you had one playground, the ring would go out in a concentric circle till it captures 2,500 people. The reason ring sizes are different is because of density of population. If there are fewer people living, it doesn't make sense to then have it larger. If there are not as many people or there are more people living, the rings are going to be smaller. This allows, again, in a more objective way also for you to simply see where gaps and overlaps lie. This is pickleball courts with Hellendale is the only site we currently have. And then with trails, you can see with respect to connectors as well, where the other providers are and what might be helpful for us to look at future opportunities too. All this led to then also the priority investment rating based on the statistically valid survey. And that's where you can see trails, water access, an amphitheater, walking, jogging track, community park, open space and conservation, fenced dog parks, were all in the high, and small neighborhood parks, so all in the high priority, followed just below that with an indoor aquatic center. A number of the other things you see are lower, and they may be for a variety of reasons. In some cases, it's not as high as an importance for the community. In others, it may be very important, but you as a city may have done a really good job providing for those needs, so they're not a high unmet need. Same thing for programs as well. You can see farmers market to fitness and wellness for both adult and seniors. Special events and cultural enrichment programs and events are all among the top 5 highest priority areas. So we took all this information and in multiple iterations with the staff, went through a visioning process to come up with these 5 core values. And those are the ones that staff essentially thinks in terms of how this would guide the way they do things. That led to the conversation around the vision to say, great, what do we want to be known for? And that is an inclusive, sustainable, and impactful agency. And then we think in terms of the mission. From the mission standpoint, it was really simple and very fundamental, which is to serve the community. That's really what staff sort of looked at as well to drive the process. So we then had 5 major outcomes or big moves that essentially were things we could look back in 5 to 10 years and say, have we achieved this? And these were the top 5. From diverse revenue opportunities to implement a lot of these things, it's not going to be any one single source. It's going to have to require a number of different avenues to address both capital and operational needs. Obviously, as you grow those offerings, it's going to require staffing, both in terms of retaining the staff you have, succession planning for future leadership, training for existing staff, and looking at future staffing growth, recruitment, forecasting, onboarding, all the rest for those that come on. A big part of this also is taking care of what you have, and that's where the maintenance management strategy comes into play. And Kendall and the team have done a really good job already sort of creating the facility division and working towards addressing those opportunities. One of the big things we heard from the survey was the reason people don't participate in the process is lack of awareness. And so that's where having a strategic plan for marketing and branding, and then looking at, again, for all these signature spaces that you have, having master and business plans for the pool and rec center, the EOT, as well as the cemetery as well. So these were the major moves. In terms of an action plan for this to be a living, breathing document, what could be the immediate next steps to implement? And these were the major implementation steps that we recommend through the plan, is doing a master plan and a business plan for the EOT and the cemetery, undertaking a feasibility study for the pool and rec center to not only understand what a location might be or what a size might be, but what would it cost to run that, to operate, maintain it, who could we partner with, how could we price it, all of that. Obviously with the parallel report as well, updating the SDCs, evaluating a utility fee assessment, and then doing a support analysis to see that for these larger capital projects, is there community support for a bond or referendum that encompasses the items that the community has said they have a priority for and are willing to pay for? And then, of course, right, we're seeing a lot more of this with public, private, and nonprofit partnerships too, to be able to look at how can we leverage public dollars for external funding support as well, right? We've seen through the pandemic, especially, more and more people realize parks, recreation, open spaces, these are not a nice to have, these are essential to quality of life, to physical, mental, emotional well-being as well. And to economic development, if people can live wherever they want and work from where they want, these are the kinds of things that make people choose where they want to call it home as well. So these are some of the major steps here. We've gone through this in sort of workshop as well, with sort of the PRAC and the commission as well. We've talked through this too. And really the idea at this point is to move from essentially here to plan adoption and then on to implementation. So those are really the next steps here. I'm happy to answer questions, comments, any other input that you might have as well. Kendall, anything else to add?
No, just an update. We've been working on our capital improvement plan. We had a workshop and work session with our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee and our city commissioners. We're currently working with our SDC consultant to work on attaching SDCs to those projects and adding some additional detail to the projects. So as we continue to work through that, our next step is to bring that information to the community, to you, to our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to have some conversation around the funding associated with those projects. What we like to do is prioritize some of those projects and talk about why those projects were chosen with our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, and then bring that information back to our city commission to continue the conversation around funding. So then we'll have a clear understanding of what are the funding sources that we have available to us and what does that SDC component actually look like attached to some of these bigger projects. So those are some of the next steps that we're currently working on. And then the SDC revision and methodology is also something that we're working on. We haven't revised our SDC since the year 2000, so a lot has changed. So we're working on that and looking at the possibility of adding a reimbursement component to our SDCs so we could readily use those SDCs for some other items associated with maintenance as a possibility. So that information will be coming back through as well.
Denise?
Hi, I think it was before COVID, Waterboard Park was designated as an official park. I did not see that on the map.
You can't see it on the map?
No,
Okay. We'll need to do something to change that.
thank you.
Yeah.
As you guys were looking at the different facilities and all that, one of the things I know that affects my neighborhood in Hillendale is the capacity for parking at the park. And one of the things that always happens when there's ball games and all that is the streets end up lined, in front of my house and my neighbors' houses with other vehicles. Are you looking at any expansion plans for parking and things like that in these facilities?
And this is one of those situations where we have these ball fields and it shows that we have them, but in regards to their location, it's not as conducive to the number of people who are utilizing them and through the seasons. So with Hillendale, what we like to do is look at improvements that we can do, looking at revisions associated with a master plan to see what we can do in regards to parking, possibly looking at some of the parks that we currently have in our inventory or expansions into other areas, and seeing if that can be a component in some of those other parks that could support more parking and more sports fields in an area that's not so congested, and you would have more access to parking.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tim?
I'm wondering if there's been any consideration for a special parks district. I've seen that work extremely well in Tigard and other places. And quite frankly, it's worked extremely well with Clackamas County Fire. With Oregon City Fire, we had 2 stations and we're trying to get 3. Now we have exceptional service. We're making money at it. It's a good thing. I'm just wondering if there's been any consideration to that.
As a matter of fact, that there was consideration to that. Even before I came, there were conversations with the city commissioners when they were having conversations around alternative sources of funding and what the options could be. Creating a special district did get presented. It didn't garner any traction or support, and part of that could be because of some of the challenges associated with developing a special district, some of the challenges that some special districts are currently having, and having to develop a separate board. And so we brought that back as an option when we were having our work session and looking into options, but that really didn't garner any level of traction. I came from a special district at Willamette Lane, and it was great. It was fantastic. You didn't have to fight over funding. The funding was there. But a lot of the special districts that are out there are well established, have been there for quite some time, and getting something like that up and running, we just didn't get the level of support from the electeds that said that they wanted to move something like that forward.
Sure, and I understand you can run up to roadblocks. It just seems to me we're looking at a master plan, and I think that should be something that's considered as part of the master plan. It may not happen. It may not happen in 5 years or 10 years, but it's something that I think that we could work towards. I mean, it's difficult to get it going, I understand, but I think that is something that we should consider, because it's going to be difficult, as we are seeing now, very difficult to try and get bonds passed to pay for parks. I mean, it's hard enough to get bonds paid for schools and fire and police and all the things we need. So I just think it's going to be more difficult in that situation as we go through the next 10 years. And that worries me, especially if we're making investments in new parks and not be able to take care of those or the old parks. And that's where I'm concerned about. And that's why I think the district should be discussed.
And something that we heard from the community is they want us to be able to maintain the parks and facilities that we have, and we need to make that a priority. And that's something that we take very seriously. That's why it was extremely important when I first came on to have an idea of what our deferred maintenance is for our parks and our facilities. And so back in 2001, we did a deferred maintenance assessment, actually of the entire city, that included all of the city facilities, because at the time, facilities was being run through the Parks and Recreation Department. We were responsible for those. And so we could get a better understanding of where we are, what are our immediate needs, what type of planning we need to do moving forward to make sure that we have the funding necessary to take care of those things. And so that's why it was so important that we developed that facilities division and make sure that we had the staffing necessary to be able to start implementing the deferred maintenance assessments. And then it was really important that we started having conversations around funding and what that actually looks like and how we could utilize some of the tools that we currently have, whether it be looking at our cost recovery policy that we passed and having specific revenue that we bring in that we earmark for reinvestment back into our properties. Like, for instance, our sports field fees. Any money we bring in for our sports field fee rentals goes right back into our sports field fees. If you've seen our sports field fees, sports fields recently, we've been able to recondition 4 of those fields, which made the sports organizations very, very happy. But when we have that funding, we can reinvest it back into our facilities and our programs and our services. And so right now we're exploring all these different avenues of ways where we can get access to some of that funding. And obviously, we're going to continue to go out for grants. We're going to continue to look at making our parks more resilient and more sustainable. And so we're going to be making some changes in how we design things and making sure that moving forward, we don't find ourselves in the situation that we're currently in when we have this deferred maintenance and we don't have plans to address it year over year. We're going to have a strategy associated with addressing it and not just kick the can down the road.
Dennis?
Kendall, can I make a quick comment on the Waterboard Park piece?
Sure.
So the maps I showed were specific to certain amenities, pickleball, playground, or trails, which is why you didn't see every single park in there. We have mapped it as well. So when it comes to the community park map, and which is what I referenced, that we have every single amenity mapped. So if you can see the community park map here, you will see Waterboard Park is actually included, and you can see the entire service area as well, which overlaps with Singer Creek and a couple of others. But that's where it is mapped as well. It is in the inventory. These are for all the parks, and the other maps are for amenities. So in the actual master plan, you'll see 25 plus maps, each of which depict a specific park type or amenity type.
Thank you, Neelay.
My turn.
Dennis?
I know you have a lot on your plate, and it must be a great job to take on this task. I was just curious, particular to my own neighborhood, Kanema, we have two parks, and I was wondering what the current status is of the old Kanema Park. If you could tell us about that, I'd like to relay that to our neighbors. And then the second question would be the agreement that you have, or what kind of an agreement do you have with Metro with the other park, the children's park? Are you familiar with those two parks?
Yes, and with Okanema, I'm assuming you're wondering with the parking and the closure of the parking
Right.
area associated with that. So there's a story behind that. So the neighbors, this was during the pandemic, were getting a lot of activity specifically at that particular park, and we had identified some areas that needed some additional attention, and that was one. And one of the things that we did in having those conversations with the neighbors is that we at first temporarily closed that access off, that parking access. It didn't mean people didn't have access to the park, but people's ability to drive in and park and participate in things that disturb the neighbors was eliminated. And so as we came out of the pandemic, we started having conversations with the neighbors about possibly reopening that park. And they were like, absolutely not. This has eliminated a lot of the issues, but we knew that that's not a permanent fix. And that's when we started having conversations about some of these areas where we're seeing a lot of activity, whether it be vandalism or transient activity. What can we do to make our parks safer? Because we're hearing from our communities, we want our parks to be safe, and we have all this activity, all this damage to our facilities. What can we do? So we then looked at an opportunity to contract with a security service to actually patrol those high traffic areas where we were seeing a lot of the activity. And so for the past couple of years, we've been having Oregon City patrol those parks and those areas, and we kind of expanded the scope of their patrols, including some of our facilities, and we've seen a lot of benefit from that. And so what I told the community there is, I said, after we get the security going and see what the benefit of having the security is, then we'll come back to you and say, okay, let's talk about what's the long-term strategy for this park, and seeing about if we want to reopen that park and start seeing if there's any issues associated with reopening that park and still utilizing the security to make sure we're all on the same page moving forward and everybody feels comfortable with us opening that area moving forward. So now, agreements with Metro, one of the agreements that we've been working on for over a year now is an IGA with Metro, particularly associated with Newell Creek Canyon. That piece of property abuts up to our cemetery, and we have a lot of activity from that park that creeps into our cemetery. So we've been working with their city attorney to create an IGA associated with that piece of property. But those are the two things that we're currently doing with that piece of property and Old Kanema. So there'll be some more conversations with the community around Old Kanema and what we like to see like moving forward for that particular area. But it was just due to the amount of activity we were getting there, and the neighbors saying, hey, no, we don't want to invite that back into our community. We like it just the way it is.
And the second part, the the children's park and Metro, what kind of arrangement or agreement has that changed?
We don't really have any kind of like formal arrangement with them for that particular park. It's more of a natural area. If there are issues, we are in contact with them and we let them know about the issues. But outside of that, no real like formal agreements associated with that park with between them and us.
And no potential change in that regard in terms of the expansion of the wilderness area and trails? Just curious.
We haven't had those conversations or explored those conversations.
Okay.
It's not out of the scope if something comes along and there's an opportunity there, we'd be more than willing to have those conversations. We've got a good relationship with Metro, so we'd be open to that.
Thank you.
Yep.
What do you have for the way of handicapped playground equipment? Is that at all parks have, with playground equipment, have handicapped, or how does that work?
So with our newer parks, obviously they meet all the guidelines associated with ADA accessibility. So if you look at Hazel Grove Park, if you look at TSW, if you also look at DC Latourette Park, because those are newer parks, we've been able to check some boxes there in regards to that. What we're currently doing right now is we're looking to expand that in our other parks as well. And we've heard from the community about needing our parks to be more ADA accessible. And that's part of a component of it being an older infrastructure, whereas some of our parks aren't up to the standard that we want them to be. But we're already currently working on improving that. And one of the things that we've been having conversations about is looking at our inventory and looking at our parks and trying to identify parks that are easily accessible to the community that we can really put a heavy investment in to make it like completely ADA accessible, and continue to kind of go through our park inventory and continue to kind of invest and improve the ADA accessibility moving forward. Wesley Lynn is a good option. Hillendale is a great option for us that we've identified. And what we're currently doing right now is we're looking at grants that we can apply for, that we can use those grant funds to expand the ADA accessibility in our parks and reinvest in our parks to move that forward. So we do have some. We definitely want more, and we will continue to look at that investment and continue to kind of expand that, and that's going to be something that's going to be a priority for us. One of the other things that's tied into our Parks Master Plan and our CIP projects are an ADA transition plan for all of our parks and all of our facilities, so we can actually implement this plan long-term, kind of understand the true scope of where we are, and start the process of continuing to kind of improve that in all of our facilities and all of our parks.
Denise?
McLaughlin neighborhood just had a cleanup on 7th Street, and we noticed the library park is in need of some landscaping, as in weed pulling. And is that
actually that
Parks or
happened
Public
today?
Works?
I got that notice. that is our park, and so we did send some of our crew over there today to start working on the landscaping, and they will be there tomorrow as well, trying to address that.
Okay, great. I was gonna volunteer, but
Yeah.
good.
Any other questions, or is there anyone online? Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments online or in the audience? Would you like to come forward, please?
Just for the people online, would you speak in front of the microphone? Thank you so much.
I was
Could you
wondering with
identify
the,
yourself as well?
Sharon McMath, I'm in the Caulfield district.
Okay.
I was wondering, it's just a general question, that the developers used to be able to be required to have public space for the amount of development they did. For example, X number of housing units, you had to have X number of green space. Is that no longer the case here in Oregon City?
I don't know the answer to that question. Would that be a planning commission in question, or who would know the answer to that?
Yeah, that would be a question for our planning department. I can get you in contact with their information, and that can be a question that can be directed to you, or that I can direct their way. But unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that either. But Adam can.
So I can't speak specifically to it, but I will say that if it is a rule, it would not be an Oregon City rule. It would be a state of Oregon rule. A lot of the restrictions on local control of housing development has been slowly eroded by the state legislature. And with that, that includes the things and the amenities that we've been used to in the past, requiring of development. And a lot of those things that we used to be able to require of development has been taken away from us by the state. And so it would not be an Oregon City thing that has changed. It would be a state thing that has changed because this is something that we're concerned about as well. I'm not sure what that rule officially would be, but what has been frustrating is that the state is saying that all housing is needed housing, which takes away greatly our ability to regulate the things that we require with it, because if a bunch of McMansions are needed housing, then we have to allow it without any sort of requirements on a lot of the things that our community expects. So that's the best answer that I can give on that.
So if I heard you correctly, what I heard you say was that the state regulates all of that housing development and the city is underneath the state. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's too bad. Sorry.
Well, but we do have a comprehensive plan, and that comprehensive plan addresses that specifically. Now, in the last one that I was a part of, there was an opportunity for the developers to trade SDCs. So if they were required to put in a green space, they could shrink the size of the green space and pay less or pay more SDCs, or increase the size of it and pay less SDCs. Now that has probably changed since we did it. I don't know. You did a comp plan recently, so that comprehensive plan is what drives Oregon City and what we are required to do. The state now is stepping in a little bit more, as Adam said, but we still have a comprehensive plan. We do have some control of what developers can and can't do until the comprehensive plan changes. So the Planning Commission, as Hannah said, that's a great place to start, and they can give you the very good specifics, and I would recommend you do that because they're all pretty good at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think in Caulfield and on Beaver Creek Road and stuff, the state has told us we have to do all this stuff, and they're taking our money away. So we need to gather and get our people together and go down to the state and say, hey, you're making us do this. You send us some money to get it fixed. Thank you.
Lobby.
Minutes, have we all had time to read the meeting minutes for May 6th?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Staff report?
Hello. It's lovely to see you all again. Trail News, the summer edition of Trail News is out. I don't know if you have had the pleasure of seeing it in your mailbox.
Yes.
I don't know why I can't view this as normal. There we go. But Trail News is out. There is the updated information. I just wanted to point something out. I'm sure you may have already noticed it yourself. Is it under these? Well, of course, I forgot. It's not as harsh on the eye in the virtual, but on the neighborhood association page, it is noted that these links are really harsh. It's almost kind of like a 3D effect, and we don't know why that is the case, but Jared's in contact with the designer to make sure that for whatever reason that doesn't happen in the future. So I just wanted to make sure that that was addressed. Also wanted to give an update about the Gaffney Lane Neighborhood Association representatives that have been elected through their neighborhood association to be CIC representatives. I appreciate you, Betty, showing up, and I appreciated Shirley being here as well. The only thing I'm waiting for are minutes, and then I'll take those minutes and those CIC applications. I will forward those on to the mayor to be appointed. I will let you know that when is the next, aside from this Wednesday, when is the next city commission meeting? Okay. I know that that's a little bit farther down the line, but there doesn't need to be a city commission meeting for the mayor to appoint you onto the citizen involvement committee.
And our next meeting is going to be in August 5th, so
Yes,
a little bit of time.
absolutely. Oregon City Ivy League, the volunteer group that I have the pleasure of starting up, will be having another work party over in Old Kanema Park. So Kanema Neighborhood Association, I hope to see you there. We saw your secretary there last time with a couple of other of your neighbors, which was really lovely to see. I've got extra flyers in the back if you're interested in posting those. Some other updates on events that I'll be doing is, has anybody heard of the Clackamas Community College Summer Connections event? No? I see Tim nodding. This is the first time I've heard about it. The City of Oregon City Parks and Recreation Department has been involved in the past. It's pretty much a large community gathering event. This month they'll be celebrating Pride Month and Juneteenth during this event, but there's going to be live music, there'll be food, and then there's a variety of different community organizations represented to be able to help just distribute different information about summer events. So I will be there on behalf of the City of Oregon City. The City of Oregon City has decided to be a silver sponsor for this event, and that means we get a premier booth location. Yeah. But I will be there, and I will have neighborhood association information. So those flyers that went out to people that have the map, pretty much the same information within the trail news too. It has the map. It'll have your individual neighborhood association meetings with their meeting times, locations, and dates. Whether that's, the second Tuesday of every month, whatever that would be. And then along with your QR codes, that will be at the event, and I will be distributing that. Clackamas County Vector Control reached out to me and provided me some information. If you haven't had the chance to read up on it, it's mostly about how to control mosquitoes during mosquito season. So make sure that you do that. Tim Powell also brought some information about basic mediation training that's offered through Clackamas County. It's too late to register at this point, but I think it's a great opportunity to keep your eye out for in the future. They do offer scholarships, so that's something that I'll be keeping my eye out for in the future. But could be a very useful thing to have as representatives not only of the CIC, but of your neighborhood associations. I hope everybody has a volunteer appreciation awards if you're on the citizen involvement committee next to your place. This event will take place on July 30th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in celebration of volunteers of the City of Oregon City. We're very excited to be having a tropical theme, so we'll have tropical hors d'oeuvres and some tropical drinks, island-inspired festivities, but we're asking that you RSVP by July 15th. I heard, Bob, you were having some issues with reserving through the Eventbrite site. If any of you have issues, just give me an email because I'm more than happy to make sure to add you into that system. And it's not a problem. So if you're having any issues with the Eventbrite site, just make sure to let me know. Another part of the Volunteer Appreciation Awards that we're changing this year is, I know in the past, the way that the City of Oregon City celebrated their volunteers was through the concerts in the park. And then last year, they took a turn and they decided to host a volunteer appreciation event, including committee members and some of our friends organizations like the Friends of Ermitinger House and the Friends of the Library. This year, we also wanted, last year they recognized specific individuals for distinct volunteer awards. And staff had specifically nominated individuals for those awards, but this year we wanted to make sure that since volunteers are the ones who are spending the majority of the time with one another, and I am also just one staff liaison who gets to know all of you very well. My submissions can only go so far. So I would encourage all of you to use the link. It's within, if you click on the Eventbrite link, it'll also lead you to the volunteer award nomination survey. I can send this all out over email with links specifically separate. That way it's easier for you to access. But you can go online and be able to nominate a volunteer anonymously for 5 different categories: social impact volunteer, emerging volunteer, outstanding committee member, volunteer organization of the year, and then individual volunteer of the year. So something that they wanted to make sure to emphasize was an outstanding committee member, because committee members volunteer a lot of their time towards their committees, and I think that that was something that wasn't really recognized in the past, and we're looking forward to recognize in the future. Postcard mailers, same deal. Give me about 7 business days to be able to submit your postcard designs into Eagle WebPress. I've had a little delay on getting invoices from them, but that hasn't affected, that's why sometimes those budget sheets come in a little bit later than before, but they just had, they had some changing of staff recently, so. But nothing that affects the timing that your postcards go out into mailers. From my understanding, those have been going well. Yes. Okay, good, awesome. You can check out the different email subscribers that you've gained over the month. As I talked about before, Gaffney Lane Neighborhood Association had a drop in theirs recently because of the weeding out of the email subscribers I did based off of the email list that Dave Hunt sent me. That way, I'm not sending out emails to the same individuals that he's sending out emails to. That way, people aren't getting blasted with the same information. That is always available. Sarah, from, I don't know how long ago it was, but you sent me information about some community events that were happening within your neighborhood, and I was able to very easily, based off that information, send out an email to your email subscribers. So it doesn't just have to be neighborhood association meetings. If you have different community events that are happening or are aware of certain events that maybe individuals within your neighborhood would want to know about, I'm more than happy to be able to pass that information on. Public records are the same thing. I've been a little bit behind in getting everyone's bylaws up, but it is on my list. I have not forgotten about it. Always keep your eye out. I think, Dennis, you sent me something recently of a scam email that came through. Yes. So just make sure that you're keeping your eye out. And if you're ever inclined, you can always remove your personal email from the website and create a more generic one. You're still going to get those spam emails perhaps, but at least it's not coming through your personal email account. Zoom recordings should be all good to go. I know that McLaughlin Neighborhood Association is now kind of doing their own. They're getting into the system and creating their own Zoom meeting links, but I'm also more than happy to be able to create a link for you if need be. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
General business, National Night Out, CIC Booth.
So, I know that there was a handful of you who were interested in having the CIC booth. My question is how can I support that? And will there be, I know McLaughlin had talked about having their own booth outside of the CIC. And I was curious to see if any other neighborhood associations were going to have their own separate booth outside of the CIC as well.
In the past, I don't know who set up the booth, but they had set up the booth for the CIC. There was a huge map of the city, and we would talk with people as they came through, the volunteers, ask them what neighborhood they were from, and they would put a little dot, a little pin, a little marker from where they're at their neighborhood. And we were there to encourage people to get active in their neighborhoods. We had a little folder flyer that the city provided, and probably right now you'd want the little QR neighborhoods flyers on it, but we would pass those out, and it was successful. And we'd have about 2 people at a time there.
We also had little things for the kids.
Yeah, was that where we gave stickers? We had not stickers, tattoos. Everyone was at the tattoo. They had this plethora of box of tattoos, and we would put them on with, I think it was just water, and that would keep the kids happy, and then we could talk with the parents. We had like 2 people talk to the parents. We had about 2 people doing tattoos.
Okay. So I
that
guess
was kind of
my
the concept.
question is, since we will not be meeting until August, how does the Citizen Involvement Committee want to move forward in planning their booth or organizing it, making sure that they have everything that they need?
I think we need to know we had enough volunteers to begin with, so we need at least 4 to, what time is it? It's from 5 to?
It is from 5, I think, oops.
5 to 7?
Hold on. I've got the email here. It is from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And I need to send in an official RSVP letting the organizer of the event from the police department know on whether the CIC would like a booth. From my understanding, Jared told me last year, it was kind of like a communication/CIC table. That's something that we could do again.
We had shared a booth with other people.
Okay, yeah.
So maybe if we can get at least, 4 volunteers, for sure. Any others would be great. Then we could
I
go into
think we should
plan.
have a collective booth with all of us represented.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to take away from McLaughlin. I think they probably have a particular need or an idea.
Yeah.
But I think we should be a CIC booth.
Yeah.
And everybody, then we could trade off the time that we have to come in, and we can all put the pin on the map, and we're all sort of like collectively there representing the CIC. I think as a group.
Good idea, because we will know people from our neighborhood that maybe someone else would know.
Would you like the city, because from my understanding last time, at the event last year, it was like communications, as in Jared,
Whatever you
from
wanna
the
call it.
city and the citizen involvement. Because I would probably have some information on volunteerism and various trail news.
We're connected, sure.
Yeah, okay. That makes it easy too, because then I'm a guaranteed individual who will be there the full time.
Did you want the volunteer list?
Yes.
Okay, well, I was on that, so.
Elected.
So Sarah,
I could do it.
Dennis,
I mean, for a time.
I will do it.
Lisa, Linda, not Lisa. I'm sorry, Linda.
Yeah, whatever. I've been called many things.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, Denise and Bob,
Dan.
or Dan. Oh my goodness. It's been a long day.
And Hannah, I'd be happy to too as well. If we'll know by Friday, I'll let you know whether McLaughlin wants to have their own booth or
Okay,
not.
and my other question in this is just also asking, are other neighborhood associations doing their own thing? And there's no need, but it really seems like there's the want for the CIC to be represented individually.
That was a nice way to do it.
Yeah,
Very nice.
and Dan too? Yeah, okay.
Might be good for South End and Gaffney starting up again to come out and help and join into that if you guys can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
Way to go, Josh.
It's August 6th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. It's always the first Tuesday of every August, the National Night Out is. So, okay.
Perfect.
All right.
And a pin.
Now, in past years, we had a table, and we had a cover thing.
We've got, and that's my other question too. If it sounds like merging with communications, team of two, Jared and I, you'll be able to I'll have access to a table. I'll have access to, we have our own booth, like pop-up tent.
Oh, okay.
So
And chairs.
that makes it easy instead
chairs.
of me. Yeah, chairs, I'll be able to handle too.
Can you make that big map?
From my understanding, that map is in the neighborhood association basement.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and you do have your own CIC banner too already that I have in my office. It's like Neighborhood Associations of Oregon City, CIC committee, yeah.
And I think Carla Laws had some leftover colored pencils or something from last year that she had a big bag full of that stuff. You might
yeah, she did.
contact her
Okay.
about that.
This will be, I'm not going to call it an official planning subcommittee because I have learned is a whole other world that you have to dive into with making sure you have meetings and all of these things so this is a informal group
Yeah.
that I will be contacting informally.
I like that.
Round table,
Okay,
round table meeting.
awesome. Yeah, I've got Sarah, Dennis, Linda, Denise, Tim Powell, potentially depending on McLaughlin Neighborhood Association's involvement, Dan Burge, and Betty from Gaffney Lane. All a group of people.
That'll be a record group.
Yeah, well, that's nice because then you can sign up for shifts. Become very familiar with that with the Youth Advisory Commission.
On to round table. Do you want to start, Dan?
I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'll start the thing there. But we had a lot of people show up about the Beaver Creek Road and putting in a sidewalk on the west side or some type of access getting into Albertsons. There's a lot of kids now already in those apartments. I didn't even start to get full, getting to the stoplight there and jogging across the street, not waiting for a walk sign, and we're going to have some problems. Same way up by the high school, a ton of traffic going across the street from the apartments and stuff, and something needs to be done about getting access. It's safe access for our kids. And so our meeting, I wasn't there for the meeting, but the meeting was supposed to be about getting more and more input from the local people, what they would like to do. And then so we can start going to the state and the county and look for people to start improving the road because, county owns most of the road, the state owns the biggest intersection part of it, and the city has little pieces here and there. So we need to get everybody together and find out what we want to do and go after the state for some money to send our way because they're sending us a lot of brand new housing and they need to send us money to improve our roads and make our kids safe. That's about it.
Tim McLaughlin?
I'll let you talk about that, but I did want to say that I had the opportunity today, very special opportunity, to go visit and watch the memorial of the 5 Cayuse men. That memorial just opened today up on the promenade in our neighborhood. And it was really a special time. It was probably, I don't know, maybe 200 people, 150 people. 80, at least 80% were Native Americans from different tribes that were there, and it was really an incredible. Please go see it. It's not this massive thing, but it's really special, and it was a really healing thing for both them and us.
And how did you find out about that? I was with some other friends over the weekend, pouring over the internet and trying to find out the dates and where this was at and what time. How did you find that?
Well, I was invited as a member of the HRB,
Okay.
but it was John from Public Works talked about it last week, or last meeting. He mentioned that they'd be done by June 3rd. I was kind of shocked by that, but I literally got an invitation a few days later.
Yeah, it was a private event.
The tribe wanted it to be a private invite only.
Okay, that explains why I couldn't find out anything
But
about it.
after this point on, the City of Oregon City will do a press release at some point, but working with the tribal communications to make sure it's done out of respect in coordination with their communication groups as well. But it's now open to the public.
Okay.
It was just a opening celebration event that was invitation. Also, it's a very small space. Yeah.
Small space, a lot of people. It was really a wonderful thing, and I was proud to be there. And I think it's great that Oregon City stepped up and did what they did. I'm very, very proud of the city for doing what they did and helping build this and getting out there in front of it. So, there you go. Nothing to add. We just had, we actually, our meeting is, steering committee meetings this week, so Thursday. So we don't have a lot to talk about. We talked about last one we talked about, so I guess you do have something to talk about.
I do have something to say. We did a cleanup on 7th Street 2 weeks ago.
Last Saturday.
Yeah, and we had at least 10 people. I think there were 12 people came and cleaned up both. We got most of the way up the street.
Within a block.
Right.
Within a block.
And we looked and we said, yeah, it looks good. We were done.
Park Place?
So we had a meeting, our general meeting in May on the 20th. Presentation from the police liaison and Willamette CERT gave a presentation on what it is to be community volunteer for that. And then a Housing Authority of Clackamas County gave us their latest plan for the redevelopment of the Clackamas Heights. And we had about 40 people there. Our next two meetings in the summer will be steering committees. And our next general meeting is in October, where we expect a finalized plans from the Housing Authority on their redevelopment plans. So, and just mentioned the road construction on Holcomb. They're putting in sidewalks for the safe routes to school, finally. So it'll be from sidewalks from the city limits down to Holcomb School, which is better than it was. We still don't have connectivity down, all the way down the hill. And we have people that mention that every opportunity, saying, let's get sidewalks all the way down. So that's what I know.
I think it's this Thursday, we, in conjunction with that Safe Routes to Schools new sidewalks, we in that neighborhood will not have any power all day. Putting in new power poles and all that, so
I'm out of there.
I'm out of there too, so. Fun and games.
Yeah. At the Karina last meeting, we had a homeowner come and the neighborhood supported him, and he now is able to get solar panels on a home in Karina, which is a huge, big thing for the city. Hillendale, Josh?
On May 11th, Saturday, we had 7 community members show up to help do a cleanup along Claremont and along Mulall Avenue from Gaffney Lane, kind of heading towards Safeway and all that. So that was good. We filled up a truck bed full of stuff. We only found one piece of drug paraphernalia, so that was good. Yeah, we have a steering committee meeting tomorrow night. And then our next general meeting will be our picnic in Hillendale Park on July 2nd. That's what we got.
Adding to cleanup, for Memorial Day, I've mentioned this before, but I've got myself involved in the cemetery. The cemetery in Karina, they have a historic cemetery there, and every year the neighbors volunteer and they put together a cleanup committee. They get the branches, mow the lawn, and prepare it for that weekend. And it was a great turnout. Very enthusiastic about the enthusiasm within my neighborhood about trying to take care of this neglected cemetery. I put out the flags, and then I was off doing my own little bit, and then I came back a couple days later, and I'm just imparting this to all you. The flags that I thought were like within the maybe 17 to 20 became like 40. So, and I checked with a few of the people that were on our board, and I thought, well, maybe one of them just sort of went out to a dollar store and got a new set of flags and just sort of peppered them out. Now we have an inventory of the people that are resident in our cemetery, so we know who are the veterans. So when I went back, just a side note, to pick up the flags to secure them, they were just peppered throughout there with flowers, and so the people do come out. It's such a surprise. I mean, if you're familiar with Karina, this is an offset cemetery, a half a mile off the regular neighborhood. So you have to know someone there, or you have to get permission to get into the lock gate. And I was so dazzled by the fact that, like, all these flags, I thought I was just impressed. And I have yet to find out who. Perhaps it was some of the people that are commemorating or remembering their past family member who helped or assisted and displayed the flags and put out the roses, and I was just overwhelmed. It was quite enthusiastic. So I think what that all marks is, like, I think there's a foot of, like, people trying to do their best to reclaim and better the landscape in the maintenance of that cemetery. So I'm quite delighted to be a part of that group. Thank you.
Sarah?
Josh hit everything, but the one thing that got left out was, instead of our steering committee last month, we attended the courthouse update. And if you all haven't been paying attention, it's coming along, and the plans look really good. It looks like a great facility that we're going to be having, so that was cool. That's it.
Betty, do you have anything to add? Would you come forward, please?
Well, we just had our meeting a week and a half ago, Adam, I think. Anyways, so we have elected a chair, vice chair, the CIC reps, secretary, treasurer. We had a great turnout, lots of people there, just kind of saying they want to work, but they don't want to be in an office position, which I get that, you know, they've done it. And so it was a great turnout. The chief was there, the mayor was there, Adam was there. That was kind of it.
Welcome.
Awesome.
I heard you had a very good turnout with over 38 people, I think, which is good, especially for first meeting. Yeah.
0 to 38, that's amazing.
Adam?
Yes, so first I'll just echo, it was a beautiful event today at the Promenade, dedicating the Cayuse 5 Memorial, and I'll just again echo that you really ought to go see it along the Promenade, and then also look the other direction and see a lot of the changes that are going on off of the bluff there at the Grand Ron site, because a lot of things are changing very quickly, and it's very exciting to see that happen. We have a meeting this Wednesday, one of our regular meetings. We're packing a lot into a few of our upcoming meetings because a few of them this summer are occurring on or the day before federal holidays. And so we decided that instead of just canceling and not making up for it, that we would try and consolidate our meeting schedule to make sure that we got through the business that we needed to get through. So of note, on our Wednesday agenda is going through our Oregon City 20-year facility master plan, which is something that Kendall alluded to. This is the document that guides our investments in city facilities across the entire community for the next 20 years. And so we've already done a lot of great work recently, as you know, with the new Public Works building / Parks facilities building. And then obviously we've got our LibKey Public Safety building in our beautiful library. But as we continue to expand and offer more services, this is what will guide our vision for what the facilities across our city look like. We're going to continue our conversation about a DMO, a destination management organization, which is what we're envisioning now as taking over the tourism and marketing functions that have generally been under our economic development department, and making that into its own separate entity that would be able to exclusively focus on that. And so we're going to be talking more about the proposals for that, and then a conversation about how we can help spur the conversations going on along the Willamette River. There are a lot of things going on right there with the West Lynn has some exciting riverfront stuff they want to do. We're trying to make sure that we can have some more activity on our end. The Locks Authority is up and running and trying to get the Willamette Falls locks reactivated. So there's a lot of activity going along the Willamette River that we're trying to take advantage of and make sure that all of the jurisdictions along the river are cooperating and in contact with each other. And so we'll be discussing ways that we can help with that. So that's what I have. And I'll also say that I went to the Gaffney Lane neighborhood, as Betty mentioned, and I think as of now, apart from one neighborhood that always meets on a night when we have city commission, I've made it out to all but one or two of your neighborhoods. And if you're ever wanting an update from me, I'm always happy to do that. I've been happy to attend informally just to see how your neighborhoods operate. But if you'd ever like that, please feel free to reach out. So that's what I have for tonight. Thank you.
All right. Anything?
Question.
Bob has a question?
Adam, exactly where on the promenade is that Cayuse 5 Memorial?
It's closer to the side where the VFW is. And it's just, right, there are different phases, and with a lot of the issues with interest rates and everything going up, they decided to phase it. And so what's currently there is not what the finished product is going to be, but it's a great start. And so right now it's it goes off of the sidewalk there on the promenade. There's a little trail and then a small memorial there. It's pretty small right now, but yeah.
An easier walking distance, rather than going up from the VFW, is if you park at the, I call it the little Quonset hut.
Capitol Market.
Yeah, the little Echo Market there, and walk up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Anything else? Our next meeting will be August 5th, and we're adjourned.